Hello, everybody. I'm Michael Morroco.
And I'm Bobby Salvesen. We are the Hazmat Guys, bringing you knowledge and insight to make your job a little bit easier and safer.
Let's get to the show.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Hazmat Guys. I'm Bobby Salvesen, and I'm here, ever-present Mike Morroco. Hi, Mike.
Hey, Bob. What's going on today?
Good.
I haven't had a chance to do something that I love in a very, very, very long time, and that's go camping with my family.
Oh, why not?
With all the stuff that's happening, it seems a little dangerous. But there's a certain activity that I just miss so much when it comes to camping, and that's the 3.5 hours it takes to assemble my tent. Yes. With the poles and the snapping together and the little hinges that have rusted from the year before and not being able to get the thing up and into the air, and then you're halfway there and a pole snaps or breaks or rips through. It is by far the most frustrating thing I have to do with my family.
Well, luckily, we brought on our very good friend, Tom Cushing. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Tom.
Hi, guys. How are you?
Very good. Yourself?
I'm doing quite well, thanks. Very busy. I think every tent we've ever made has been in use for the last 3 or 4 months. So otherwise, I try to find one to help out your camping issues.
I'm not even joking. If you guys made like a camping version, I bet you they would sell like hotcakes.
I know. That's been the biggest challenge. We have to make them to meet such performance specs to last. Any shelter you're going to put up to 16 patients in, you need to make sure it's never going to come down. So they're a little bit overbuilt for the residential camping market.
Well,
yeah.
Let's pull back the curtain a little and
yeah.
What are we talking about here?
Let me tell you, it's Tom Cushing from Zumro, and one of my favorites. I will say that they are my premier go-to tent place. Tell us a little bit about what you do over at Zumro.
Well, at Zumro, we really do one thing, and that is emergency tents, emergency shelter. So whether it's for hazmat, for medical facilities, military, we do tents. And we do them one way, inflatable and rapid deployable. So what makes us a little bit different is not being a Me Too company. We just make the inflatable tents, and we make them out of the same way we have for about 30 years. So our biggest things are durability, strength, and rapid deployment. And that's really what sets us apart.
And that rapid deployment really is the part that tugs at my heartstrings. Before we had the Zumro tents, or before I ever got to play with the Zumro tent, we had the style tents where you had all these little hinges and bars, and it collapsed, and it was an accordion style. And it's seriously, for a large shelter, would take 5 to 7 people to set up if it went smoothly. And the first time,
leave.
Yeah, the medical leave.
Leave afterwards.
Yeah, 3 guys would be impaled. And the fact that I was able to do the tent literally by myself, you just flop it out of the bag and start inflating it. It was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Yes,
that is
the deployment, when you talk, and if you've seen it and been trained 1 or 2 times, 1 or 2 people can put that up anytime, regardless of how large the tent is. So I can fit in. The other thing, they get nice and small, relatively speaking. So you can pull this off the back of a truck, inflate it in about 3 minutes, and it not only puts up the tent, but if it's a hazmat tent, it's going to drag all of your plumbing with it, all of the curtains, the water containment. And even now we do the LED lighting in the tents, so they're permanently installed. So when that tent goes up, whether it takes 2 minutes or 5 minutes, depending on the size of the tent, it's going to be ready to go. You just make your water connections on the outside, you plug in your power for the lights, and you're off and running.
I love the tent. But you know what? The question that starts, I've been wanting to ask this for so long. Where did Zumro come from? Is it Zumba? Is it Zumro? Where did that name come from? Is it like a combination of 2 words?
Yes. Well, actually, what it is, it's the 5 letters of the original 5 last names of 5 guys who started a company way back when. And one of those 5 guys, and that company was actually started to as a distributor for rescue tools, extrication tools. So it was always in the emergency market. But one of those 5 guys, the Z in Zumro, was the father of what we know Zumro today. That is Win Van Basten. And his father was one of those 5 guys. And one of the many rescue products they had was this inflatable shelter. And Win saw this in about the 1980s. He bought the company and he saw an idea for rapid deployable shelters in the emergency market. So he started taking to the fire service, the FDICs and other conventions of the world, took this to the fire service. And he's always fond of saying he would demonstrate it, show everybody the tent, and they'd say, that's wonderful, but what are we going to do with it? So it actually was adopted by the hazmat side of things, with the idea of it to be a decon shelter. So really the first time Zumro came to market and came to be known was with the original decon shelter. And that started off, it was a 128 square foot tent. The showers would be hung in afterwards, and boom, it was a decon tent. And then it slowly evolved from there into, they'd see the advantage of it as a command tent. And then the medical teams would see it and the law enforcement would see it. And basically anybody that was attached to hazmat. And if you think about it, who does hazmat? Fire service, hospitals, military, any kind of emergency management. And that was kind of the genesis of it, was as a hazmat tent.
Oh man. And it just keeps evolving, right? I mean, the whole idea.
Yes, exactly. Like when I said that started as a 128 square foot tent, well, whatever other entities saw it and say, hey, we use this tent just to dress in as a dive team. We put a heater on it and it's a place for us to be warm at a crime scene. Then the idea was, this is pretty nice, but we wish it was bigger. So the next evolution was a 200 square foot tent. Well, as we move forward, now we have tents that are as large as 900 square feet. And these are tents that are used for special applications in the military. Zumro builds custom tents to go over the engines of a C-130 that lands up in the Arctics where there are no garages or hangars to fix airplanes for the military. So they can literally inflate a tent that just goes over an engine. So those mechanics aren't working in sub-zero temperatures. They're working inside a heated tent. Other teams that had decon tents would say, this would be really good if our field hospital tents were like this. Those tents that you guys just described with rusty hinges and pinch points and breaking points that take 5 or 6 people to put up per tent. They said, we love this as a decon tent. If only you made it bigger where it could be a field hospital tent. So that has kind of been the evolution of the product and how we went from one small 100 square foot tent all the way up to tents that are over 900 square feet.
All right. I want to tickle this out a little bit here, because when I think of tents, I like Mike said, I think of hiking tents, I think of camping tents, I think of the pop-up tents that you have in your backyard for a party or something like that. But these are more, if I could say it, they're kind of like an inflatable raft on its end, right? They use big pontoon kind of things, but pressurized air to put the whole thing up, right?
Yes, exactly. So it's all inflatable, but it is very, very unique. So the process we use to make them is different than, say, you think of other inflatables. You have an air mattress, you have rafts in your swimming pools, and those all work great until they don't hold air anymore. Your air mattress works, and then at some point you start waking up on the floor in the morning. So you can chase that and patch holes in materials, and you'll never get it back. So Zumro uses a different material. It's an expensive material, and it's very labor intensive. But what the result is you can have a tent that will stand for weeks at a time without having to add air to it. So the other factor is that it's low pressure. So a lot of people will feel the beams of a Zumro tent whenever it's inflated. You can't squeeze them together. You can do pull-ups off of the beams from the ceiling, yet there's only about 3.5 pounds of pressure in there. And that's kind of the secret.
Wow.
The fact that at 3.5 PSI, the air isn't fighting to get out. Yet you get...
Oh.
So if you kind of think of an analogy might be high lift, low pressure airbags as opposed to high pressure. So the low pressure, you get your strength from the volume of air as opposed to the PSI of the air.
Right, the square inches.
That's why the tents have been so durable. and they're easy to even fix in the field. We can change a valve on a tent without ever taking it down because low pressure. It's that easy to do. And I've seen measurements with the tents. We have gauges that we put on there, and they'll stand with less than a pound of pressure. It'll be soft, like a soft balloon, but the tent will still stand there. So that's kind of what makes it so unique, is the fact that you can leave it up for weeks without having to add air. You can be in a rainstorm. We have videos of it being hit with, first of all, they take a tent and drop it from a 100 square foot aerial ladder platform in its bag. Then they inflate it. And then they go ahead and bring the ladder down and hit it with 750 gallons per minute. And the tent just stands there and takes it. So we don't recommend any of our customers drop theirs from their ladder truck. Let us do those kind of tests. But that's just the fact that if it can withstand all of those, it can withstand any kind of weather we throw at it, including, as I previously mentioned, how they're used up in the Arctic.
Yeah, they're a pretty. I can attest to the fact that they're a pretty impressively substantial structure when it's up and running. Why do you believe that your product is so essential to the hazmat and the emergency services community?
Well, definitely it's from the feedback we get. And any kind of product innovations we have over the last 30 plus years of being in business is due to the fact that we get that feedback and they make us better all of the time. So when we talk to our customers, we know where they're being used. These are being used as we speak right now. All around the country, COVID testing sites are up, or treatment centers as field hospitals, either seeing patients or testing people going through. But every day, the headlines you don't hear about, hazmat deployments, anything from truck spills to accidents that you don't hear about on the everyday news, we know they're always in use, whether it be with fire service, medical teams, with event medicine. So it's a good feeling, and it's just a great industry to work in, knowing you work with people who are on the front lines at all times.
All right, so you don't think about a tent company having to deal with COVID, the coronavirus pandemic and whatnot, but you are a manufacturer. You have employees and things like that. What's been the challenge? I mean, did you guys evolve as a business to really kind of respond to this? Did you guys change your pitch? Did you pivot?
Well, yes, definitely. It's been a big challenge on a couple of fronts. First of all, our factory is in Florida. All of our tents are made in Pompano Beach, Florida, at our factory. And we have the same issues everyone else does. We have to protect our employees, but we have to remain open as an essential business. And not just working on a skeleton crew, we had to hire more people, work overtime shifts, and add weekend shifts to keep up with demand. We sold basically every tent that we had in stock, and even tents from our demo fleet, just trying to get products to customers any way we could, any way we could help.
Wow.
Because the demand just went through the roof for all of these products. So our best part was to try and add shifts, add people, but yet we couldn't allow any of our employees to be exposed. If there was an outbreak in our factory, we would be shut down and we wouldn't be able to help anybody. So it's been a very, very big challenge, especially as we're hiring new people to try to keep up with the demand. And just like everybody else in this world, just trying to stay safe, keep employees safe, and commit to best practices, even as they're ever changing.
I mean, again, this is just me sitting over here saying this, I would have pivoted right into the inflatable toys for kids business.
Yeah.
Because you guys could kill it.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, that's the big difference and the challenge for us. So if you see the inflatable units that you'll have at a fair or somebody's backyard party, you mean like the inflatable bouncy houses?
Yeah.
We always get that comment anytime we do a demonstration. Someone brings up, this is like a bouncy house. Well, yeah. It's it's much, much more robust than a bouncy house.
If you tried to bounce off one of those walls, you'd break an arm.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot stronger. And if you ever notice in a bouncy house, there's always an inflator running. They need constant inflation. Where a Zumro tent, once you inflate the Zumro tent in the 3-5 minutes, however long it takes, you take that inflation source away and your tent's going to stand there. And that is the big, big difference because, and I used to see this in the marketplace. I don't see it as much anymore. But some people would have inflatable tents that needed constant inflation. But every time you're in a real deployment scene and you're plugged into generators and alternative electrical
Yeah, that
sources,
doesn't work.
it never fails that someone trips a breaker. Someone always plugs in too many things. And if you have a tent that is not like a Zumro, but one of those imported tents that needs constant inflation, that tent goes down. And that's not something we can do if we're going to be housing 16 patients. More matter of factly, not what our customers can do. They need a strong tent that is basically a portable building. So that's why we make them the way we do. But it makes it a little expensive for the home birthday market.
just a little bit.
Just a little.
So I know what I love about this tent. What are some of the feedbacks besides the stuff that I've said on air? What are some of the things that you hear from the feedback that you get from firefighters and hazmat people?
Well, there's a couple of things, and one of the biggest is the robustness. As I had mentioned, I had left the tent with a customer for demonstration, and they were kind enough to leave it set up in their fire department. This was in Pittsburgh, and they had it set up in a warehouse, and so that nearby jurisdictions could come and see it and evaluate it. And I went to pick it up about 3 weeks later, and they told me they never added air to it at any time. So they love that it's low maintenance. You put it up, walk away, and it's good to go. And that particular tent's about 3 years old. So I hear stories about that all the time and get letters from our customers, which we love, about how they use the tent, how they didn't add air to it for a period of time. The other thing is, another one is space savings. So when you talk about those other tents and decontamination systems that have parts and pieces, whether they be plastic, metal, composite, and all this assembly that's required, usually those are housed in different cases and different bags. Well, with the Zumro, we put everything in about one bag. So we save so much space on a rig or a trailer or however you're transporting it, or in the militaries and some of the government entities in their C-130s. We save space in the planes, or weight is always an issue. So when you talk about inflating a decontamination tent, you drop it out of the bag, put the air to it, and the lights are in there, the floor containment for water is in there, the curtain dividers are in there, and the plumbing is in there. All in that one bag, you have everything. So we're saving so much space on with what we're carrying. Another point everybody likes to point out, and I think you guys mentioned it, we heard a new term somewhere, and it was called line of duty injuries, but they used it Lodi. And I said, what's a Lodi? They said line of duty injuries.
Never heard that before.
They said every time we're setting up our great big tents, someone pinches a finger, someone gets a finger smashed. There's just things that you have to worry about that you don't have to worry with the automatic deployment of the Zumro. And the other is training. If you've seen this once, twice, you pretty much have it down being able to put up the tent. There is no, which order do we go in? What if someone pulls the tent metal pole too fast and it snaps? So those are the biggest differences we make, because it never seems to fail. Whenever the incidents happen, when the emergency happens, it may be the middle of the night and you're short on crew. It may be at a hospital when you're short staffed in the middle of the night and only one person's ever actually attended the training for their decon system. But if they've seen it with a Zumro, they can do it because it's that.
I will say, you know what, I'm going to say this is that me and Mike come from allegedly a small department in the Northeast, and our training schedule, they have to set up the rollers for contaminated victim washing and decontamination, and part of the evolution is setting up the Zumro tent. And I will say, I don't know how often they replace it, but I'm going to say it's not very often. They probably set up and break down the Zumro tent twice a week.
Wow.
For the last 5 years?
Easily 5 years.
I'm saying 5 years on the same tent. I don't think we've changed it in 5 years. So if that does, and we are not gentle. We are known. We can break ball bearings. I mean, like
no, because when that tent is coming down, traffic's building.
Yeah, we got to move, guys.
So they're not
on it.
Right.
Yeah.
We try to make things firefighter proof. We know that's generally impossible, but that's our standard because things happen fast and they happen recklessly. And they happen as quickly as they can, especially in a place like that when traffic's building. So that's why we make them as robust as we do, but they seem to last. I can give so many examples. I was in New Jersey last week, and they've had a tent that they've been using for COVID testing. And we tracked the tent. The tent's 17 years old. and it worked great. And we hear stories like that so often. So usually just about every tent we've ever had is still in service. It's very rare that we have one that was, a common story with tents is people will forget to stake them down. So we always demand and always say, stake your tent to the ground. And we provide easy ways to do that, whether it was stake kits or anchor bladders that you line next to the tent and fill with water. So you're not putting holes in the street or the parking lot. But it never fails that some folks have failed to stake the tents down. And one example was large field hospital tents. They set them up on a Friday for a drill and decided to go home and we'll come back and take them down on Monday. And they never staked the tents down.
They came back to nothing.
They came back after a weekend where they had a microburst storm, and one of the tents had blown far away into a fence, and one of the tents was completely missing. They had to go. This was a large campus type place, and I won't mention any names, but they had to go to their security video to find the tent. It had landed on top of a 3-story building. And this is a 900 square foot tent, a 16-bed field hospital tent. It had blown so far and flew that far that it was on the top of a building. Yet that was a tent. We shipped it back to the factory and we fixed it. It's back in service. That's one of the nice things about a tent that's as strong as it is, but it's also made out of materials, fabric like rubber, the neoprene. We can fix it. So seemingly every tent, so many tents we have out there are still in service.
That's good, because my worst case scenario is that something's going on. We have the command post in there. I have a field hospital in there, and some knuckleheads driving by, and let's say a high-low or bringing the rig by, and it catches the thing and tears a little hole. You're talking about 3.5 pounds. I can probably put my hand over that and get that flex steel stuff that the guy makes the screen door into a boat. Right? I mean, you can fix this.
Yeah, our two favorite field fixes we recommend it is, if for a field fix, if you're in service, either chem tape or duct tape, because it works.
Totally.
That'll get you through.
And we'll fix it later, but it'll hold.
Later, it's like patching an inner tube. And I've done it, and it's I don't have to do it very often, but I have done it, and it works. And once it goes on and cures, and it's a very simple process, it's kind of stays forever. So yeah, the easy fixability of it, because anything can happen in emergency services. There's no doubt about that.
Totally.
The easy fix is great.
One of the first times that we opened it was actually probably literally like the first training that we had with this, and it opened up. Now, mind you, beforehand we are talking about, the huge tent with nothing in it. It's just you're working all this time to get the shell, right? And you have to take that shell and you got to put it onto a containment area and all of that stuff. And the first time it opened up, and I was like, are those like hose bibs and spray nozzles hanging from the ceiling?
Yep.
And the guy that I was with was like, yeah, it's all there apparently. And we were so shocked that everything was already in place. Like, you had your little aisles, you had the ability to put the curtains in to separate everything out, the hot water, the cold water, the mixing, the berm. Like, we were just like, this is, we were literally floored. And from
that's what we were looking for.
Yeah, from that moment on, because don't forget, right, as an instructor, like, it's part of my job to assemble this and disassemble this. So I was looking at it not from like a first responder's point of view, but from like a selfish instructor's point of view. I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be so easy.
Great.
Hey, and that's how I have to admit I look at it, because I'm a salesperson. I want it to be easy because I have to demonstrate these tents all the time. So
yeah,
pass that on. We all agree about that.
Yeah.
Like when we think about, all right, we're putting out these products, it's got to be kind of rewarding. I mean, like, you're supporting the guys that are going downrange and doing all this stuff, and your stuff is in where it's happening, like, and it's being called for. Is that like, what do you think is rewarding about that? Like, being in that community, being a part of the team.
It is tremendously rewarding. It's it's absolutely my favorite part about being in this industry, even in a secondary support role. And it's always been that way. When I first got into this business, I got to say it's been 15 years. I was told by people that when people get into this industry, they don't leave because there's nothing else like it. And it's just so the personalization of it. So when I'm working with folks, I'm working with hazmat teams, just like you guys. I'm working with fire departments. I'm working with military. I'm working with healthcare workers, emergency management, law enforcement, people who are out on the front lines, like you mentioned. That is absolutely the most rewarding thing, because all of these lines are just filled with good people. I don't know that I could go into another industry because I just like working with the good people of all of these markets, if you will. They all share that same thing in common, is to serve. And it is a really good feeling when you find your things are on the front line, be it in New York, being it in Washington, D.C., being it with military teams who use these in places that I would never have the courage, or no one would ever ask me to go to, and hotspots around the world. And our shelters are in planes, and I get to go work with these folks, demonstrate a product that I say, hey, take a look at this. And people appreciate it, because just like you went through that experience saying, wow, this is going to be a lot easier from our point of view. When you're talking about a soldier going overseas and they have limited equipment, and they find out that their job's going to become easier, that they're going to take up less time and use less manpower, people power to put up the tents, they're thrilled. So just my little connection to the world, taking these products and just connecting to the people that use them, is very, very rewarding.
So what's next for Zumro?
We never know. If you would have asked 4 or 5 months ago, no one saw this change in the world coming. We never would have guessed it, right? But we never know where that's going to lead. In November, we did an exercise with Verizon's emergency response team down in Georgia at a training center, and in Perry, Georgia, Guardian Centers. And the scenario they had us participate in, because they're a user and they have our tents with their emergency response teams, Verizon deploys when there's hurricanes or any emergency to get networks back up and running, and they work out of our tents. Our tents are command centers, our tents are housing. So they use them, and we support them when they have a training mission. Well, the particular mission we were on last November the scenario was an international airplane came in with sick patients with an unidentified disease. And the airport was going to have to unload a plane with hundreds of people who may have been exposed to a respiratory disease, and they have nowhere to place them. They can't let them in the airport, but they can't just leave them on the tarmac. So the idea was put up emergency tents, Zumros, because they could be put up quickly and get people housed and evaluated. And that was in November. And we have infection control tents. We've had demo tents for years that we can put people in who are exhibiting symptoms or are infectious. We put the tent under negative pressure so that any air is clean before it comes out, and everybody outside is safe. But it hasn't been a hot product, if you will, although we've had that capability for a long time. I never would have guessed how quickly the world would have changed in about 3 months. So we're always there, and it's always our customers' demand asking us to do things. Right now, we're building tents for rapid COVID testing to be mobile. So the general public can be tested in a parking lot, an area of a city or a suburb where they say, here's a testing site, please come in. But places like nursing homes, places like prisons, where you have confined people, they need to take the testing site to them. So we're building very specific tents with removable liners that we can set up, that our customers can set up and evaluate and test patients. So that's a new thing for us. And it's just kind of what's next for us is just finding the next customers, finding people that could use what we make.
That's awesome. Tom, it is awesome to have you on. I learned a lot on this show. I'm sure that there's going to be some questions for you from our listeners. Where would they find more information about Zumro or you or whatever?
Okay, well, the easiest place to hop on is to just go to Zumro.com. That's Zumro. So Zumro.com. I'm pretty easy to reach. My email is simply tom@Zumro.com, and they can email info@Zumro.com. And then, of course, we're on all the social media sites under Zumro.
Yeah, I highly recommend, I know we highly recommend going and check out this website, going and check out these products. And if you get to a conference, if there is a conference this year,
yes.
There seems to be no conferences. But if you get to see a conference, by all means, make it over to the Zumro booth and check out their wares. Tremendous stuff. Thank you so much for coming on, Tom. It was an absolute pleasure.
Great to talk to you guys. Thank you for having me.
Thanks.
Well, that wraps up another episode of the Hazmat Guys.
You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and our YouTube channel at The Hazmat Guys, and take a moment to call our comment hotline at 843-628-1484.
And we are always looking forward to your feedback about information or interesting incidents that you were a part of, so send us a note at feedback@thehazmatguys.com.
Remember, guys, don't just get on the job, get into the job.